I'm VHS Jace. Next to me is my very good friend, Rick. Rick, we have just walked out. We're 15 minutes.
Here we are.
From leaving the cinema back here to talk Beetlejuice. All right. Well, look, let's be honest. There's been some middling reviews about this before I've seen it. Right? I haven't read many reviews because I don't like to really read reviews before
I stayed away.
movie,
Completely stay away.
It's impossible not to see headlines and images and Rotten Tomato scores and some review headlines. And I was able to pick up the fact that not everyone loves this. In fact, I know someone, which I do other shows with, who clearly doesn't like it. So I went in with very low expectations to this movie. I had a great time. I like this movie. It is not the best movie in the world, but it is not a bad movie. I had a good time, Rick.
You had a good time?
I did.
Like you, Jace, I stayed away from reviews, stayed away from all social media.
Yeah.
I enjoyed myself. I really enjoyed this movie. And last night I watched the first Beetlejuice. It's great.
You know what surprised me about the first Beetlejuice is how dirty that movie is.
Yeah.
It's not a kid's movie.
No.
And it's not a kid's movie. And this time around, they haven't really, they haven't gone as filthy, but they haven't held back. It's still there.
It's still there.
It's still there. So, no, look, at the end of the day, I think Michael Keaton feels like he didn't even miss a beat playing Beetlejuice here. Yeah. Every time he was on screen, as far as I'm concerned, he was magic. Yeah. He was magic. He really was. In fact, all the actors in this movie were great. And a couple of scene stealers was Catherine O'Hara playing Lydia again, who I absolutely love, and Justin Theroux, who was really good in this movie. Winona Ryder basically just being great as well. In fact, everyone, even Jenny Ortega, who I'm not a massive fan on, thought she did a great job as well. So the acting was great. The tone was exactly the same. You know, it felt very Tim Burton, but it's not without its flaws. I mean, definitely there are some glaring issues in this film that
I had some issues with it. I'd probably say the first half an hour of this movie was a little bit slow for me.
That's the weak spot. Yeah.
But in saying that, I was still heavily invested in those characters. Yeah. I still liked the relationship between the mother and daughter and all that. And so I was heavily invested in that. So the time was going through. The villains, there was a couple of villains in this movie. I just wish we could see a little bit more of them. Screen time on those were a little bit low for me, I felt. Yeah. And they died pretty quickly as well for me as well.
Well, basically talking about Monica Bellucci's character, which is obviously, guys, this is spoilers. Monica Bellucci's character is really fairly perfunctory, and her main purpose is really just to tie the movie up at the end. Yeah. There was a bit of lead up with her and it really led to nothing. Yeah. But you are right, the first third of this film is problematic. And I'll tell you what it's missing. It's missing the kookiness and a kind of slightly weird angle from Rust. Alec Baldwin. Baldwin and Adam. And Gina Davis, who were really great. And why it worked so well in the first film, Rick, is because we follow the journey and we get to discover the afterlife through Alec Baldwin and Gina Davis.
So we've already seen it too.
Character. So we've seen it. So there's no surprise there. It was a bit flat. Another thing that was pretty predictable, soon as she met that boy.
Oh, straight away. You knew he was a ghost.
You knew half an hour before they do it that he was going to be evil and he was a ghost. So
that was very
unfortunately, that was pretty kind of readable. But overall, I would suggest it does live in that world of what modern nostalgia, where we're at that age, Rick, where we're seeing films that are 30 years old being rehashed for us. Yeah. This one's, 35 years old?
1988 came out. So.
Yeah. Which for the filmmakers is a hard task because we've had a lot of hit and miss with that, haven't we? Where we've had old films and they've sequelized them 35 years later and they're awful. I mean, I can only think of two that are really great and one that I kind of enjoyed. The Force Awakens is probably a good example, 35 years later, and they really captured the magic of Star Wars with The Force Awakens, just that film. And the other big one is Top Gun Maverick. which did an excellent job of coming back all those decades later. I'll throw Axel F in there.
Yeah,
I like Axel F a lot, so I'm going to give that there. Yeah. But this film does not reach those heights. However, it's still a good time. I still enjoyed the nostalgia. I still enjoyed the jokes. Yep. And I thought it worked as best as I would have expected it to work, if that makes any sense.
What I enjoyed about this is the practical effects.
Yeah.
They still, Tim still used from when he was back in '88 to this one. We've got technology now that he could have made it into, but he still had those practical effects. And I loved it, and it just kind of brought me back. And there was little hidden things that you see within different scenes that if you've seen the original, which was really good and ties it all into one. Keaton again was fantastic. You can't go wrong with him. He just seemed to just fall straight back into that character, and he just didn't drop a beat whatsoever.
Well, when they did use him in this film, I thought they used him well. Yeah. Even though we've got a convoluted plot and things like that, I thought he did really well within that. Big shout out to William Dafoe as well.
Oh, yeah, he played the actor.
He plays a cop who was actually an actor who used to play a cop. So I thought that was really great. And of course, Bob. Bob gets a lot more screen time in this. Yeah. Good old Bob, who was fantastic in it as well. And in fact, that nice little touch when all them kind of come out of the spiritual world and just running
down the street
in town in Halloween, which was kind of really great as well. It's definitely a film that you can take the family to.
100%. Yeah.
It's there's still gore and things like that, but they do it in such a way that you're not going to be covering your kids' eyes too much. And I think from a nostalgia perspective, if you have a really soft spot for Beetlejuice, I really think you'll get something out of it. And if you don't, then you've always got the original Beetlejuice to enjoy. I heard some bad things. I really did, Rick, and I'm kind of stumped to figure out why they had such an issue with this film, because it's a movie made for fans. I think it's like Tim Burton and Michael Keaton making this for the fans and not really for themselves. And I think there's a bit of that in there as well. Can you think of anything else that bugged you in this film?
No, not bugged me, but I do like the little cameo of Danny DeVito.
Oh, yes.
Which was amazing. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Seeing Danny there.
Yeah, right at the beginning.
Right at the beginning. No, but there was mainly those two things. And I guess the death of Monica Bellucci as well, just with the sandworm. We've seen that before. I just thought we could do something maybe a little bit more different. But apart from that, everything was just great. I just really had a fun time watching this. There was times when, it was a little bit, I kind of shifted a little bit, but then come back, Keaton would jump in, they'll do some jokes, and you have a laugh, and you're just like, and you're back.
Third act is really good. Strong. It is a film where it starts off slow, but really does hit its mark, I believe, right at the end. Now, the other thing I really wanted to talk about, which is a sensitive subject, is Jeffrey Jones. And this was a big shock. Without going to Jeffrey Jones' issue and why he was not involved in this project, I was shocked at how much he plays a key, pivotal character in this. And we get a version of him with his head blown off, but his image is on the screen a lot. We see photos of him a lot.
The voice wasn't there, but that whole little motion capture scene, dream sequence they did of his death, which was cartoon type, was really
that's it. And
it still looked like him, like it was very close.
Absolutely. So that surprised me quite a bit. I wouldn't want to be a parent having to explain why he wasn't in the film.
No, you might have to Google that, guys.
you might have to Google that.
We won't get into
that one.
But
that was the only thing that really kind of took me out of the movie occasionally, was thinking every time I saw him on screen, I thought of that situation. Yeah. But overall, I would give this film a recommend. I don't know. I will say this. Yeah. Just because we go to the movies, I don't know whether I would say to a family of 4, go spend $100 or $150 to go see it. But I get the feeling it will be well received on streaming. Yeah. For those who don't go and see it, it'll definitely be well. Whether it makes money or not, it'll be very interesting.
The question is Better than the first one?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. It's there's the first film. There's a gap before you get to this film.
Yeah.
But again, like I don't say that to slam the film. I'm just being realistic that it doesn't live up to it.
No.
But it's pretty good.
It is. It is.
You know what I mean? Like I would recommend if someone put it on right now and it was already released on streaming, I'd sit down and watch it again.
And I don't think you need to watch the first one either.
Oh, I think you do.
I don't know if you got that because there was a lot of younger people in that cinema that I was walking out, I was seeing them going, did they understand maybe? And they kind of explained it well in certain things, I guess. But if you're a true fan, you will know certain things. But yeah, look. It's a fun movie.
Look, it does. It reaches out. It attempts to do a new story within that universe without doing a beat for beat remake. Yeah. And there are obviously elements that are repeating themselves throughout this, including the idea of her getting married at the end.
Yeah.
But essentially, they are trying to do something different. This would have been a tough film to write.
Yeah.
I mean, this wasn't the initial idea for a sequel. Do you know back in the 90s, about 94, they were going to do a sequel for this where it was called Beetlejuice Goes Hawaiian. And that is the truth. The script was written and Michael Keaton smartly said no. Took his time and have now come back all these years later.
30 years later, he comes back.
Look, it's great. I think they're making a third one? Well, I know for a fact Tim Burton's going, no way. But it feels like it's set up for it, doesn't it?
Like, you have to at the end.
It is set
fast
up.
Forward to her having a baby.
And isn't the whole concept about Beetlejuice is to say it 3 times? Correct. So it would be great to go and see Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice.
It makes sense. It makes sense.
So, though, Rick, I mean, I don't know how much more I can say about this. Is I had a good time. There are flaws, some glaring, some subtle, but overall the spirit was right, the tone was right. I enjoyed myself. I found myself snickering and laughing. There was no big belly laughs, but I was smiling and I was chuckling.
You were having a good time. That was the main thing.
And that's the main thing. So, yeah. And how about you, Rick? What do you take away
100%, mate. I enjoyed every bit from the moment I walked in to the end. Yeah. Like I said, I love the music that Tim had in that as well. Just some of those scenes, it just put a big smile on my face and that's the main thing. Paid my 20 odd bucks to go see a movie. I went out and enjoyed it. Yeah. I recommend it to anyone.
Yeah. I mean, in the beginning with the music, I was a little bit bothered.
This is not a perfect movie by far, but it is an enjoyable movie.
And the music in the beginning bothered me a little bit because, no, there was one particular scene, the funeral, where they do the choir version of Deo.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, well, that really sucks the fun out of the original scene, seeing that. But the fact that they kind of do the musical thing, but they go completely different, the type of song that they did was great. And the way they did it in the church salvaged it. But, there are problems in that first act, as we've stated. There are problems. And,
100%.
Once it does kick into gear, though, it works well. I mean, usually the evidence is whether I'm enjoying the film or not, is whether I'm looking at my phone for the time.
Yeah, you look at your watch, this, that. No, I don't think you did. No. I noticed because we were sitting next to each other, I noticed you were laughing and I'll have a laugh or something.
We're both laughing.
We were in tune on what was on the screen. But a very enjoyable movie.
Yeah, it was a good time. I don't know how I'd rate this one if I had to rate it. I mean, gee. Out of 5.
How many bobs would you rate it out of?
Okay, how many bobs would I rate it out of? I would give it a good 7 bobs out of 10.
7 bobs out of 10.
I give it a good 7. That's just a solid number.
Yeah, I dig it. Yeah.
How about you?
If I had to do that, I would go probably 7.5 bobs.
There you go. So that's a good rating, so for a fun time at the movies. All right, guys, that's been our spoilerish review. We haven't given everything away. We didn't really want to. We hope you've enjoyed it. And if you did, do us a favour. Like, subscribe, share. Do all the right things. It means a lot to us. It's only a click for you. But it helps us with that nasty evil demon, which is its own version of Beetlejuice, which is Google algorithm. So, if you could do that, that would be wonderful. And we'll see you next time on our review show. See you guys.